Welcome to Too Deep, Hokies Under the Influence. And it is Virginia Tech. This isn't some rinky-dink-ass program.
Come on, JC.
We're going to put this old guy in the grade. We'll go over some of the stats for the Bears. It's the percent. 11.
It's an 11 game.
Welcome to Too Deep, Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast. I'm your host, Pete B, and I've got my co-host here with me, Sam Jesse. Sam, how you feeling tonight, buddy?
I'm feeling good. I've been looking forward to this for a while. This is our South Carolina preview, and I feel like I have absorbed more South Carolina content than any Hokie should before this game.
Yes, I told you earlier, I was listening to some South Carolina podcasts on my walk today, the last couple days, a lot of deep dives into stats and whatnot. But yes, tonight is our first of our 2025 opponent preview series. We've done this the last few years. Even before Sam was a co-host, he helped us out with this. And we used to do the first 6 teams and the last 6 teams on the schedule, kind of divided into 2 episodes. This year, we're doing 3 episodes. The first episode is just going to be South Carolina. That's what you guys are going to get tonight. And then I'm on vacation next week, and Sam, Irby, and Brett are going to help me out with ODU and Vanderbilt and Wofford. And then we're going to hit the ACC in a couple weeks. But this is a deep dive on South Carolina. And I think both of us have done sufficient research. It's time to grip it and rip it. But first, we need a cheers from you, buddy.
My cheers is not only to the start of preview season, because it feels real right now. We have the Atlanta event all scheduled out. Billy and I are scheduling when we're going to go to the aquarium, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, keep me in the loop on that one. Aquarium's supposed to be awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. So my cheers is to the start of preview season. Pete, this is 11th preview
It'll be
season?
the 11th season this year. Yep.
11. Like, that's 10 is like monumental, but to keep going past 10, congrats, dude.
Yeah. Cheers to that. And in honor of our opponent, and just to maybe a reverse jinx, I am drinking out of the South Carolina glass tonight. I got this in Columbia about 2007. It's made approximately 6 or 7 moves, but I still got it, really, despite it kind of fading off the front of the pint there. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Sons of Saturday will be getting you ready with everything I just said, and just for Virginia Tech season in general, Pat and Billy stuff, my stuff, Coach Holmes. Sam's got some stuff planned as well, so it's going to be a good summer of content leading up to Atlanta. Some news and notes from SEC Media Days, since we're talking about that team. Pavia, the other team we're going to face, he wants to win an Addy, Sam. He said 7 wins wasn't good enough.
I love him. I want to beat him so bad, but like, that's a compliment. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, you want your team to bury him in the ground, and I feel like that's the compliment he's looking for.
Absolutely. He's a dog, right? And he must, from what we were hearing last year leading up to Vanderbilt's opener against us, was that it wasn't even so certain that he was the starter in July. No. Like, that's how much of, like, maybe not a good practice player he is, but
it's unreal. P, I told you, and like, I think the most research I've ever done for an opponent was Vanderbilt. I mean, weeks of deep dives, practice reports, like people who were at every practice, every media day, and they all said they would suck. Every one of them was like, this team is terrible.
They're saying the practices don't look good.
They're saying they can't tackle, they can't catch, they can't do anything. And then they get out there and they look amazing. So whatever Pete and I say tonight, put a massive asterisk next to it, because you never know.
We can only provide what's been put out there, what we're reading, and what they do on the field is a totally different story. But we're going to give you all the information we have. And before we get to what the Hokies are coming in at in terms of the magazines and projections and whatnot, Shane Beamer got on the mic yesterday, and he had a couple interesting things to say. The first of which was, he had that line about teams that got hyped up all summer long, fell flat on their face, and then couldn't recover. Do you think that was about us?
I mean, yeah, but it was also about a lot of different teams. Like, this happens every single year. 2 or 3 teams that aren't normally hyped up, like top 20, are talked about. Usually only one of them lives up to the hype. And it happens every year. So I think it's a general, like, I think he knows.
It is a general thing, but he said week 1, And we were the only double-digit favorite to lose that week.
It is nowhere near as scathing as what the Vanderbilt player said about the Virginia Tech game. I
No.
felt like he was talking to me personally.
Yeah, that was the guy. It wasn't Pavia. It was another player on their team that said, we saw all their fans in the stadium and how sad they were afterwards, and we were just so psyched about it. I'm paraphrasing, but that's more or less what he said. And that was me and you.
Stepped on our heart with stiletto heels. Just brutal.
Well, then we also had Shane saying Frank is absolutely rooting for South Carolina, which I know, like, he's the coach there. That's his dad. He's been down there constantly. Still kind of hurts, though. Still hurts a little bit.
If you don't wear maroon and orange, you don't matter, Pete. One Saturday,
even Frank's gonna be the opponent on Labor Day. But what can you do? Last thing before we get into everything is Saturday in the South. The party at the bar, which is called Park Tavern down in Atlanta, is taking place on August 30th, the day before the game. We have a bar tab that's going to be from 3 to 6. So that's the website has all the information on that, sonsofsaturday.com, or the Suns X page, or wherever else you can find all that information. But that party is going to be awesome. And if you're in the building come 3 o'clock for the open bar, then you're in the building for all the live music. You don't got to pay a cover later. And there are lots of good games on television that day. So Park Tavern is the place to be on August 30th.
Very, very excited about it. I need college football in my life so desperately bad, Pete.
Yes.
I'm yearning for it.
We haven't even gotten to ACC media days, and I'm already tired of the talking. But this party too is for Gamecocks fans as well. It's for any college football fan. This is not just a Virginia Tech party. Go to sonsofsaturday.com, find the article that went out today, the link, the Facebook invite, the information on hotels will be in there. So check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun down there. All right, 2025 preseason rankings for Virginia Tech in the FPI, Sam. Not everyone's favorite, but I enjoy looking at the FPI. We are number 26. 26 for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Highest preseason ranking anywhere out there. Might show you that FPI isn't the best, but I'm going to go with it. SP Plus 46th. Athlon 55. That was the lowest of the four I have. And Lindy's comes in at 50. I think we were 12th in the ACC in Lindy's. That's kind of rough. 11th in Athlon, 9th in SP Plus, and 4th in the ACC in that FPI ranking. If you go to our strength of schedule, which the only place that had that was FPI, we have the 52nd hardest strength of schedule. So very manageable, something we've talked about many, many times. One thing I added today after I was listening to, I think it was Locked On Gamecocks, the PFF ranking for Virginia Tech, 41st. And I think that's a power ranking as opposed to a finish. And when you're outside the top 25, a finish doesn't really matter anyway. So 41 in the PFF power ranking.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I was looking back. I keep some of my old magazines, and I was looking back at Pry's first year, and they were way down the line, right? And I think there is a little bit of proof of concept of bringing in talent through the transfer portal that Virginia Tech lost as much as they did and is not bottom of the barrel. I know that might not make people feel great, but I think this team is properly rated with what we know about them right now. I'd put us very much in the pool of teams you're seeing around us, like NC State, right? Where they lost a lot, but they returned the quarterback. Coach is kind of on the hot seat. Not a very tough schedule, like very middle of the pack. And time to prove somebody wrong, because you're going to go up against a team in week one that polar opposite offseason talk. I mean, absolutely polar opposite teams coming into this game.
So last couple notes on us. 5 draft picks in the NFL, though all of them were from the 4th round on. So that's talent going out the door. And there's probably another handful of undrafted free agent guys that are going to be on rosters in training camps at the end of this month. If you go to the portal ranking, on threes, portal net rating, we were 24th, which is pretty damn good. It means we brought in a lot of guys, some talented guys. I think we had 30 entering transfers or something at the end of the day, Sam.
It was 30 in, 30 out. Mm-hmm.
And we'd lost. Yes, there are some guys that are just going to FCS or not playing football anymore or whatever, but we did lose Delane. We did lose Caden Moore. There were certain talents, Xavier Chaplin, that went out the door. But for the most part, we did very well in the net portal ranking coming in at number 24. Our best units probably our defensive line. I'd be interested if you agree with that, but I'm going to go with the D-line as our best unit. And then all conference guys, Tomas Rimac, love it, John Love, and Tucker Holloway. And that's from the smattering of magazines. If you made an all conference or something in any of them, I kind of listed them right there. So that's about 4, maybe 5 all conference guys, depending on where you look. So that's where the Hokies are at. What do you think our best unit is, Sam, going into this year?
Dude, I could argue this is kind of crazy. Like you could argue quarterback and running back, like that back.
You could,
because Pop Watson's won some power conference games, and Kyron Drones, obviously, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but his ceiling is very high. Defensive line is probably up. I think defensive line will end up being the best, especially what we're hearing about Kamari Copeland and Ben Bell and those guys. So I think defensive line will end up being the best, but I think it's a really talented backfield. Like no matter what combination of guys are back there, I think they have pretty good playmakers.
Yeah. No, that the line about the quarterback is interesting because could Kyron be a top 6 quarterback in the ACC? Yes. And if he is, then I'm not sure any of our units are going to be top 5 in the ACC. They could be. The D-line could be. But it's a tough call. But that running back group with those transfers coming in and all that unknown, it could be really great. Replacing Tootin's going to be a challenge, but Terrion Stewart, everything we're hearing about him and what he could provide along with Bennett, Hawkins, and Coney, it's a nice combination of backs. And so good point on that one, Sam. Let's go to South Carolina. 8:31, 3 p.m. on ESPN. We are all alone in this window. It's an island game, as you've said. Massive opportunity to show the nation what we are. Or
officially stamping it an opportunity game.
Opportunity game.
Officially stamped.
In the FPI, they are number 15. SP Plus, as of May, they were 17th. Athlon, 12. Lindy's, 13. PFF, 11th. So in every one of those rankings, they're a top 20 team. All but one, they're a top 15 team. And that is surprising with everything they lost, but they did have a very good season last year. They were 9-4. They went 5-3 in the SEC. What were your thoughts on kind of their team as a whole last year and coming into this year?
Yeah. So I run my model every year, and this will be year 3 of it. So I'm pretty excited about running it throughout the season. I had them at 14th in like gameplay adjusted for opponent. Coming into this season, 18th overall, which jives with what we've kind of seen. But like you said, with the amount of guys that left, I have them at 65th in returning production. So this is they lost a lot of guys, right? On the flip side of that, I have them at 20th in high school recruiting over the last 2 cycles, and I have them at 17th in net transfers. So this is a team that is bringing in talent at a top 20 rate and played at a top 20 rate last year as well. So there's reason for the hype, even though that they lost so many guys. They lost 14 players to the NFL, 5 of them drafted, 9 of them as undrafted free agents. Most of the defense went to the NFL.
Yeah, and all 5 draft picks were from the defense. And all 5 draft picks were 4th round and better, as opposed to ours being 4th round and worse. There's a difference in those 5 draft picks.
I mean, they lost. I think that returning production might be a little worse than it looks. We'll get into everything that they return, but when you look at the positions that they return, they have whole units that are gone.
Yes.
Now they've done very well bringing in talent, which we'll talk about, but this is a team that's going to look very different than what they looked like personnel-wise last year.
And structurally, from that standpoint, it's very similar to Virginia Tech. You know, you have this stud running back that is gone. You've got 5 NFL draft picks on both teams. You've got quarterbacks who have both had really good single seasons and very similar numbers in those single seasons. Of course, Kyron regressed a little bit last year, we think due to injury. But structurally, these teams are shockingly similar. Now, South Carolina's seen the good on the field. They had a borderline great season last year, damn near made the playoff, and we're going to get into a little bit more of that. I wanted to ask you about that transfer ranking you noted. Is that for 2 years or 1 year? The 17.
Excuse me. That's just for this year.
Okay.
So that's ranked. That's counting in the guys that they brought in, the guys that left, how much production those guys had. Were they power conference? Were they G5? Were they FCS? Things like that. So it's trying to be pretty holistic. And I use a bunch of the different rating system, like, services to get it. So I'm not just going off 247 or whatever. It is an inexact science for sure.
Yeah, it is.
There's so much of these transfers coming in is about system fit. And so we'll talk about that with some of the guys that they brought in, but regardless, they did pretty well. Now, one of their better guys in the transfer probably will not play against Virginia Tech. He's still hurt, but we'll get to that when we get to their defensive line.
Yeah, on 3, they were 27th in that net ranking. Now, I appreciate the fact that you did your own net ranking, which probably was a little bit more in depth because, like you said, this is so hard to track these portals.
Yeah.
And the rating of someone in the transfer portal, what does it mean? Like, what does the transfer rating of Aaron Nolan mean if he never sees the field?
Exactly.
So it's based on fit. It's based on so many, and who thought Kyle Kennard was going to come over and be an All-American last year for them? They didn't even think that necessarily. And so it's so hard to know what you're going to get out of the portal. It can be a complete roulette spin at times, but on 3 net ranking, Virginia Tech slightly ahead of South Carolina in the portal ranking. So take that for what it's worth. They brought in 18 guys in the portal. 6 were 4-star transfers, according to 247. And you mentioned a couple, and we'll get into more of that later. Their best unit, a lot of people are going to say quarterback. We're going to talk about Sellers a lot. DB, I think, is probably the best because they're returning the most, and there's some high-end talent there too.
Yeah, I think that's the one position group, especially on defense, that I wouldn't expect much drop-off from last year. They brought in some guys. They've had some multi-year starters back. They brought in Cisse from NC State, who is one of their better defensive players. He's a plug-and-play guy, but he can also play a lot of different positions. He can play nickel, he can play safety, he can play corner. So they have a lot of experience and versatility in the back end of that defense. So I would probably say DB's their best group right now, but their 2 best players are Sellers, of course, and Stewart on the defensive end.
It's rare to go up against a team that has 2 potential number 1 overall picks. I know that sounds crazy, but Todd McShay put out his newsletter a couple months ago, and it had Sellers as a potential number 1 overall pick. Dylan Stewart in 2 years, I guess, because wasn't he a true freshman last year?
Yes.
He could be a number 1 overall pick. So you don't run into these teams that have potentially 2 of these guys. Now, that's far-fetched. It's a long way off, but it's crazy. These guys are super talented, those 2 specific players. Outside of Stewart and maybe Kilgore, there's a lot to replace on the defense. But let's do some big picture stuff first. Shane Beamer, 29 and 22 through 4 years. He had some ups and downs. It wasn't necessarily looking so good for him after year 3. He went 5-7. Even after last year, he's still only 15 and 17 in SEC play, though it is a difficult conference. It's amazing the tenor change on him in just 1 year.
He is phenomenally talented. I think a lot of that has to do with his upbringing, right? But he is phenomenally talented at coming off as the most positive, energetic, everything's great guy. Like, I think part of the South Carolina hype has to do with he's a guy that kind of hypes up the program himself, and he's very active social media. He's great in a press conference. He carries himself well. He's pumping up the fans on the sidelines during the LSU game and stuff like that. Like, the way he carries himself, I think, does a lot for that program.
And it gets out there on social media too. Like, some of the videos they put out are hilarious. They have a very good social media presence. Probably a lot of it thanks to him. Would you call him Dabo Light in that positive rah-rah kind of regard?
He's got some Dabo to him.
Of course, I'm sure they don't like that comparison.
They probably, I think deep down they probably would.
Yeah, because he's a national champion.
I think he does have a little bit of that. He's a great football coach, but he's not a classic football coach. like I don't see Shane Beamer as a guy who's going to get spitting mad during practice, but he's like an elite used car salesman, kind of like Dabo.
Yeah.
Like
He's kind of like Gundy-esque.
he's like Gundy from like a decade ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the post-game presser kind of crash out stuff, the facial expressions, the willingness to say things that other people won't say. Like he definitely has some of that, but he is great in front of a mic, can be long-winded, but very, very good behind the mic, even at SEC media days.
A little bit PJ Fleck in there as well. Like he basically has South Carolina tattooed on his arm and is flexing it all the time. Like that's just how he carries himself.
They have a new offensive coordinator in Mike Shula. He was there last year as an assistant, but he hasn't worked in college since he coached at Bama in 2006. So it's been a minute, but he did coach Cam Newton with the Panthers, among other NFL talents. And so it's an interesting fit, but I think there's going to be a lot of continuity between what they had under Loggins and him this year.
Yeah, I would expect the playbook and scheme to be pretty much the same. The difference is going to be like one or two packages here or there, or how they run the quarterback, right? Do they want to run him more, run him less? What's their run pass split? I don't think their style of offense is going to change so much, but play selection probably will be different this year. I would especially think so considering what their schedule looks like. I don't think they're going to design run sellers that much for the first half of the season. At least I wouldn't. When I look at that schedule, you need him healthy, and he dealt with injuries last year. So I'm curious to see what they do with designed runs for the quarterback position.
I hope they do what we did last year and
do nothing,
not run him enough. And because that terrifies me. His legs absolutely terrify me. But we'll get into that in just 1 second. They were 3-3 last year after losses to LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama. And that Bama game was awesome. And Sellers got hurt in the LSU game. They could have been 4-2. They could have been 5-1 after those first 6 games. But they were 3-3, and they even struggled against ODU in the first game of the season before finishing them off. But then they won 6 straight. They beat Oklahoma, A&M, Vandy, Mizzou, Wofford, and Clemson to finish the year. The Clemson game was spectacular. They beat 2 ranked teams over that stretch in Mizzou and Clemson. And they've been a dynamite defensive and special teams team, as you kind of would expect from Frank Beamer's son,
Beamer,
right?
Yep. Yeah, they do have a little bit of Beamer ball to how they play. Now, they were a very, very veteran defense last year, and they have a very good kicker. I think he's back. I'm not sure, but
no, the kicker's
new.
He's not.
Kicker's
the
not
whole
back.
Special teams is new.
Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, it's a good team, but they have so many question marks. I think the coaching changes aren't really that big of a deal for them because it's somebody who's been in the program. But the personnel changes, I'm very curious to see if they can do the same things defensively and if they want to do the same things offensively this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of the same while also trying to progress Sellers as a passer. Like you said, you're not trying to get your guy hurt. And all of these guys that want to go to the NFL, be the number 1 overall pick, whatever it is, they all want to improve on their weaknesses. And for Sellers, a lot of people think that's him in the passing game and holding onto the ball too long and a lot of other things. And so I would love if we get a more pass intensive quarterback play, calling, whatever it is from Shula, because that suits Virginia Tech better, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 100%. If Steve Spurrier was coaching this South Carolina team, I'd feel a little bit better about the Hokies' chances. I feel like the key to South Carolina being good is not running a run and shoot offense and not passing the ball a bunch. Like they need to run the ball, play within Sellers' game, and they're really, really good. When they get outside of that, that's when the struggles start to happen a little bit.
So last year they were 57th in yards per play, 47th in scoring offense, 72nd in yards per carry, despite having 2 really good runners. Now, the sack yardage factored into that 72nd in yards per carry, because when they actually ran the ball, they were pretty darn good at it with Sellers and Sanders. But they lost Sanders and his 1,100 total yards and 13 total touchdowns. They lost tight end Josh Simon on offense and his 7 touchdowns. So that's 20 touchdowns out the door. And no other skill player on South Carolina last year had more than 3 TDs. And so, no, it's not as new as the defense, but the core and the heart of what they were doing on offense besides Sellers is gone. Before we go deep on Sellers, I want to tell you guys that you can get a discount of 20% off your first order at roback.com. Too Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by roback.com. They have the best polos in the game. And I say this to all the South Carolina fans that might be listening and the Tech fans that might be listening. You can get your college gear there, and it is spectacular. The most comfortable golf polos. I know Sam was playing some golf last week in the hot weather.
I know it's
thing to have on.
I know it's hot and humid down in South Carolina. If you're in Charleston, if you're in Kiowa, if you're in Hilton Head, it's the best golf polo I own by a significant margin, and I own a lot now.
Yes, and as I said, they're offering our listeners 20% off their first order using code 2DEEPVT. You can get polos, quarter zips, tees, shorts, joggers, lady stuff, the little dresses. They have everything, and they have just about every big-time school. So hop on there, load up your cart, use code 2DEEPVT for 20% off your order. Roback Crave Activity. We're going to do a beer break after we talk about Sellers, Sam. 6'3", 242. Pretty high-end guy, but he didn't play his first year. Was Rattler still there when he showed up?
Yep.
And so that's why. Last year, he really got a chance. 65.6% completion, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and another 7 touchdowns on the ground. So that's 25 total, about 3,200 yards total. And some pretty eye-popping numbers if you look at his rushing totals and things he did towards the end of the year when they went on that 6-game winning streak. And it's drawing comparisons to none other than Cam Newton, to some really high-end athletic quarterbacks that we've seen in the past, which is bringing in all the pro scouts like Daniel Jeremiah, McShay. All these guys are in on Lenore Sellers and his tools. Do you think that the hype is getting a little out of control? We talked a little bit about this last week.
It feels like I was doing research on King Arthur. It starts off that he's just like a pretty good quarterback. And then at the end of it, he's 7 feet tall, threw for 5,000 yards and ran for another 2,000. It was crazy. Very, very good though. Very, very good. I think a lot of the NFL hype has to do with, like you said, the tool bag is there. The size is there. Is it polished? No, it's not really polished. But for the college game, he's pretty darn good. I was actually kind of surprised you talked about his rushing. And obviously, he's very big. He's very athletic. PFF had him in the 33rd quarterback for rushing with quarterbacks over 50 carries, which I felt was really, really low. I thought
not
he'd be
high
top
enough.
10. Yeah, I thought he'd be much, much better. But that's just where they had him. You argue with them for that. He had 852 rushing yards last year. 581 of them were after contact. He forced 47 missed tackles, including 12 in the game against Clemson. So he is not a make you miss guy. He's a run through you guy. And
yes.
I think that's really, for me, that is really, really telling. It's very similar to the numbers that we saw for Bashal Tutin last year, where, it looks great, but he has to do so much work to get positive yardage. So very good runner, but he's not Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson back there. He's much more of a Tim Tebow-esque runner. Gerard Evans maybe is a good call.
Similar to Drones. I mean, they're
similar to Drones, yeah.
Now, I would say that Sellers has a little bit more wiggle, a little bit more speed, but they are extremely
They're
similar.
very
In fact, Pate put out that clip of Sellers in the Clemson game where he made all these people miss in the backfield and then ran for a huge gain. And then I responded with clips from Kyron against Tulane, which were very similar clips. Like I can't wait to see these guys go up against each other. And I put a tweet out on the Two Deep page today suggesting that, but he's got a killer arm.
Mhm.
And in terms of strength, it's probably the strongest arm in the conference. That doesn't necessarily mean he's the best passer of the football, but I would say when I looked at his numbers, like his passer rating, shockingly good. It was 17th in the country. 17th. I would not have known that after listening to what some people, the way they talk about him. Like he's such a good runner, but he needs to work on passing. His passer rating was spectacular.
Yeah. He got a lot better towards the end of the season of like taking what the defense gave him. You saw, so I watched a couple of their games from last year, and like I watched their game against ODU because that's a team like Tech plays both those teams, and like he didn't look good at all, like at all. And then you watch him against Vandy, and I was like, oh, okay, like you see the issues, which I'll get into a few of those in a sec here. You see the issues, but you also see him like making the right play every time. And then I saw the game against Clemson, and I was like, okay, the rest of the offense really isn't that good. It's just this guy versus 11 players for Clemson. So that was crazy. So he has the ability as a quarterback, similar to what we've seen from Drones and other quarterbacks of that style. Like I said, Gerard Evans a few years back for the Hokies, where they can just kind of single-handedly take over the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Evans is a better comp in that sense. Absolutely. Because we saw him do it again and again. I would say Sellers is very good. And Bud Elliott said his bad is pretty bad. He said that on the Cover 3. And it's the sack taking. He took 33 sacks. As a team, South Carolina was 121st in sacks allowed per game. So they couldn't really protect him. And maybe it had something to do with the things he was doing, trying to extend plays and then taking a bad sack, losing a lot of yardage on those sacks, something that Tom Fornelli factors into his unnamed quarter QBR, in which he had Sellers as the 70th quarterback in the country on that ranking system. 70 out of 122. That's not good.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and it depends on what you value. And because you can go by a lot of different metrics. If you look at SEC quarterbacks in QBR, Sellers was 10th last year. In running, passing, and overall, Pavia was better across the board, London Norris Sellers. But that's not the narrative that we're hearing.
And that's also, I mean, that's last year. This is a guy who probably got significantly better. Yeah. Something you said about the sacks I thought was interesting. I noticed that too. PFF clocked him at 3.31 seconds per attempt. That's pretty high. Like you really want to be under 3. If you're above 3, you're holding on to the ball. So that explains some of the sacks as well. And you talked about the turnovers. He had 18 big time throws, which are, making a throw into coverage right on the money. It's a big time throw, right? But 19 turnover worthy throws. He really struggled reading complex safety coverages. He really struggled reading the ball downfield. It hurt him in 3rd and long. He was not a very good 3rd and long quarterback. That's where you can kind of get him. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. Not a guy who's going to sit back in the pocket and read your defense, look off your safeties. That's not in his game. So that's, I think, where you see a lot of the issues for Lenore Sellers. But if he's on schedule, it's really tough to stop a quarterback of that size and speed.
In a more simplistic way, like he can be schemed up. Like if you get the right defensive coordinator, you can scheme him up, confuse him. And if you can hit him, just like any other quarterback, it's going to make it really challenging. So that's what our goal will be. And we'll get to more of the overall thoughts on the matchup at the end. But I look at his good games, Kentucky, Mizzou, Vandy. He had 5 touchdowns and 1 pick against Mizzou. Those 100.
This is a good defense too.
Right. That was a good team last year. 5 TDs and 1 interception. The 166 against Clemson, the 106 rushing against A&M. But he did have 6 fumbles. That was 6 fumbles lost. Let me correct that. 11 total fumbles, 6 lost, and then the 7 interceptions. So that's 13 turnovers, some ball security issues. So it's a Jekyll and Hyde a little bit. Now, because he was a redshirt freshman, he should progress. He should get better. I don't know exactly how he's going to factor in, but as you look at who else he has on this team and who he has to utilize at the skill positions, he is going to have to take his game up a notch if they kind of want to match what they were able to do on offense last year. So let's talk a little bit about the running backs. We're waiting to hear about Rasul Faison. This is an NCAA issue where will he be granted I think it's a 6th year of eligibility. You did the math on this, I think.
Okay. You want to hear his story? His story, in 2019, he committed to play at Marshall. He didn't appear in a game for Marshall. In 2020, he went to Lackawanna College, did not play there. In 2021 through 2022, he was at Snow Community College. The first season, he didn't play in any games. So that's 3 years out of high school, no football games. The second year at Snow Community College, he had 355 yards. Then he transferred to Utah State, where he played in the 2023 and 2024 season. Last year, he had over 1,100 yards. Almost 100 yards receiving. Very good player. And he is coming back again. So he was playing
He's going to get cleared
when I
in my
graduated.
Opinion. Don't you think he'll get cleared?
I think the issue is like they don't know what to do with a case like this. A guy who was like,
well, they cleared Pavia.
Yeah, but that was like a juke. I mean, this guy's played for 2 more years than Pavia.
True.
like think about that.
Not played necessarily though.
Right. But like that's the weird, like it's a really weird situation.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good back. I wouldn't call him a great back. I think Tech will play better running backs this year.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to the other running backs that South Carolina have, like Attaway. I think Tech will play better running backs this year, but 1,100 yards in the Mountain West is not, not everyone does that. And that was a pass happy offense too. He was getting over 5.5 yards per carry.
To sum up running back, I don't think they're going to replace what Rocket Sanders could do with one guy. It's going to be similar to us. They're going to have to use all these guys. Even if Faison is cleared, he's very good, but he's not Rocket Sanders. And he was doing what he did at Utah State. So him and Attaway will kind of share duties in addition to some other guys. Moving to wide receiver, the big story is Nick Harbor, the 5-star from a couple years back who has track speed. In fact, he was trying to qualify for the Olympics, I think last year. And he has, in terms of football, maybe he's been slightly disappointing when you think of him as a 5-star. He only had 300 and some yards last year, 3 touchdowns, only 571 yards in 25 games throughout his career. But he did come on late, put up 270 yards over his last 5 games and a couple touchdowns. That talent being there worries me, the speed being there, but without him having done a ton on the field, it kind of quells those worries a little bit.
Yeah, the potential is all there. Not a guy who did a ton last year. I will say this is his first full year of like football.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no track training. He's been all football. So we'll see how that impacts his play. Big receiver, crazy fast. They like to use him on a lot of like drag routes across the line of scrimmage. So watch out for that. The potential is there. We haven't seen it on the field yet in a couple of years.
They like Mazeo Bennett. He had 30 receptions, 337 last year and 3 touchdowns. Jared Brown, Brian Rowe, the freshman, is someone that I've heard a lot about. He could factor in. He's a 4-star from Concord, North Carolina. There was actually a great brewery in Concord called 26 Acres. I think it's closed now, but anyway, Brian Rowe, another name to watch. And then at tight end, they bring in Jordan Dingle from Kentucky, and they have sophomore Michael Smith. So they're going to try to replace Josh Simon. And to finish out offense, Sam, the offensive line, those sacks loom large, right? I mean, they've been 121st in sacks per game 2 years in a row, exactly 121, 2 years in a row.
And they're bringing back both of their starting tackles this year and replacing their 3 interior offensive linemen. So this is, if I had to put a weakness on South Carolina, I would probably say offensive line. Yeah. Offensive line is the glaring weakness. It showed up in games last year. I think it's part of the reason why Lenore Sellers has to run as much as he does and has to run through contact as much as he does. I think that is an area, if there's a unit versus unit on the field, I think Virginia Tech might have the edge. It's Tech's defensive line versus South Carolina's offensive line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a huge matchup. And if they're bad yet again on the O-line, like they were for Rattler and getting Sellers sacked a bunch last year, it's hard to improve that quickly, right? That could be a huge swing for Virginia Tech. I know they went out and they got some portal guys and they are bringing back the tackles, but the tackles weren't necessarily that good. And so I think one of them might be, but regardless, they have to improve O-line in order to have the kind of season they want to have. So that's it for offense. Let's take a quick beer break and we'll move to defense and kind of finish this thing out here. What are you having, Sam?
I am continuing with the Sam Adams summer pack. This is the porch rocker. I love the colors on the can. It's like a teal and navy. It is very lemon shandy-esque, very bubbly, not very beer tasting. I got to be honest, I don't love it.
Okay.
I don't love it. I'm going to drink it. I don't love it. I think you can get much, much better of this style of beer for also not that expensive. So
what body of water would you be drinking it by?
This is so what was it? The first one was
a lake, I think.
First one was a lake. The second was a beach. Summer ale was a beach. This is very like
a creek.
Yeah, but not a creek. This is like a mountain stream post hike. Like it's fruity. Stream. It's really, really light. Like you're okay for the second half of the hike on this one.
Yeah, it's a solid shandy, but shandies have their own kind of category. And if you don't like shandies that much, you're probably not going to like it. But if you do, you'll think it's okay.
The Saturday shandy at Bull and Bones in Blacksburg, Virginia, much better.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I've had many a porch rocker in my day. It's solid, but I think I agree with your assessment on the whole. I am having a Trogs Summer's Here, Sam, because summer's here. And it's really good. It's just a lager, 4.2 light lager, goes down really easy. Like I said, in the Gamecocks class, Trogs always comes correct. It is light as a feather. You could slug these things all freaking day long. Very, very good. Summer's Here lager by Trogs. I'll go 3.75, which is pretty good for a lager. I mean, It's hard to get up for a 4.2. That's pretty good. Defense. Last year, this unit was ferocious, violent, just ridiculous in every category. The front four was awesome. 12th in scoring D, 14th in yards per play, 13th in rush average against, and 21st in opposing pass efficiency. Just nasty. But 8 of their top 11 tacklers are gone. 6 of their top TFL guys are gone. No Emanwari, no Knight, no Bam, no Debo, no TJ Sanders, no Fortune, Kennard, Tonka Hemingway. They are all gone, Sam. The line is, outside of Stewart, being completely rebuilt.
It kind of reminds me of the 2017 to 2018 Virginia Tech defense, where it's like you had all those guys and you kind of took them for granted while they were there and you had a very good defense, and then they all leave and you're like, oh, like it's just not going to be like this all the time. Yeah. They replaced those guys with good players. I don't think you can expect that level of output for 12 games again. So I think this defense overall takes a step down, but even still taking a step down, this is a very good defense. And it will be, I think, the stronger side of the ball for South Carolina.
I mean, they're going to take a step back. That was a historically good unit for South Carolina.
Yes.
It's nice getting Stewart back. And you want to talk about comparisons. I talked about him being compared to Jadeveon Clowney on PFF last week. And they didn't have so dissimilar numbers. Clowney's numbers were better in every category as a true freshman, but similar numbers. And he's preseason All-American. But I wonder, without Tonka Hemingway, without Sanders, without the linebackers, without Kennard, what does it look like for him?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of edge rusher he develops into. Last year, he was able to be just kind of a speed rusher on the outside with all the other defensive players. But now that you can kind of key in on him, I talk with like Robert about the Steelers and Browns all the time, like Myles Garrett versus TJ Watt. Like Myles Garrett is going to demand a double team and you have to double team him. And that changes your whole offense because you have 2 blockers on Myles Garrett. Sometimes he gets through, sometimes he doesn't. Whereas like a TJ Watt, he's going to be up and moving around. He's going to play on the edge. He's going to play linebacker. He's going to be defensive tackle. He's going to be in the ground. He's going to be standing up. So you can't change your game plan for him because he's just going to move around and then ruin everything. So I'm curious how they use him this year now that offenses are keying in on him. And I think that is a really big, I know they have like personnel question marks coming in, but how they use him for me is something that Tech is probably going to be in the dark on until the second half of this game.
Outside of Stewart, Brian Thomas has a chance to step up big. He was promising last year, 4.5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss, good spring, good offseason. He seems to be one of the guys that's going to be on the opposite side. The transfer, Jaylen Brown, you hinted at him earlier.
Yeah.
He comes over from Missouri, but he got banged up. And I'm not hearing that he's necessarily going to be ready for Virginia Tech. So that's a blow. But they do have Gabriel Brownlow-Dinty from A&M. That was a big get, 6'3", 310. He'll be in the middle on that D-line. They're going to be solid. Like, it's going to be solid. It's just not going to be the nightmare fuel that was last year's D-line.
Yeah, would agree. In the linebacker room, and again, they have to replace everybody. 2 pretty interesting transfers they brought in. Justin Okoronkwo from Alabama. He's coming in at linebacker. They also have Sean Murphy, who's coming from Alabama by way of Florida State.
Yeah,
so he's coming
Bama
in.
Guys.
Yeah, it's, I think they are going to have, I think it's going to be tackling by committee for them this year. I kind of see them rotating guys. And
they kind of did that last year too, because so many guys had an impact on the game. But Fred Johnson is a guy from Virginia. He's a Norfolk guy, 4-star, younger. I think he's a sophomore. He's going to play a lot for them. Like, I think they're relying on him. And Sean Murphy, maybe a little bit more praise on him than J.O., but they like J.O. a lot too. So they're going to be fine at linebacker, but not the same. And then moving to DB, which we both think is the strength. Kilgore, Smith, and Collier. Kilgore projects, I think, to go in the first few rounds of this upcoming draft, which is interesting considering like he wasn't all SEC last year, but he had a lot of guys in front of him. And so now they feel like he's been solid, been very good. I think he was a freshman All-American or All-Conference, but now's his chance to really play and be the star of that DB room.
Yeah, I think they also have a lot of versatile guys back there who've played different positions. So I'm not sure what exactly they'll come out with in, that first drive against the Hokies, but they have experience, they have talent. I think that's the position group that they're going to feel like they don't take a step back in.
Yeah. So you look at their defense overall, not having the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, Nagurski Trophy winner, and consensus All-American, all one guy. That's good that Kyle Kennard is not there.
That's good.
That's good. But
I'll chalk that as a W.
They're going to have a couple draftable players, at least in next year and the year beyond. And there are guys that have sent me. You said they've been recruiting well out of high school, portal. We don't know necessarily how good some of these guys we've talked about tonight will be, but I'm pretty certain they're going to be good to very good. And so replacing a lot of production, step back, but they've had a good defense for a couple of years now. On special teams, Beamer said in the first time in his 26 years as a coach, he's replacing his punter, place kicker, kickoff specialist, new holder, new snapper, new punt returner, and new kickoff returner. So we know nothing about their special teams. Now, they have a lot of talent on the team, so those will probably be fine, particularly the return men. But it's good that he doesn't have his punter or kicker back. That's a win for Virginia Tech.
Like that could be the difference in the game. Early season game.
Agree.
You're kicking in a dome, which is different. I don't know. Like that could be something the Hokies also have a unit edge in this game.
Let's move to overall thoughts on the matchup, Sam, and then just South Carolina as a team for their season. The spread is 9.5 right now. Virginia Tech, the underdogs. The over-under is 46.5. If I had to summarize my thoughts, this team is all about Sellers and his step forward. If they want to have the year that they had last year, where they win 8 or 9 games. He needs to take his production from 3,200 yards total last year to about 4,000 this year. Like, he needs to be that good. Nick Harbor needs to be that good. Faison needs to be that good. And the offensive line needs to get better.
Yeah, if they're going to win 9 games this year, he needs to be in New York for the Heisman. That's kind of how it feels. And he certainly has that ability. I just think this team goes as he goes this year more than last year. Like, I don't see a Rocket Sanders to help them or a Simon to help them out on offense. The defense, again, it will not be totally dominant. It's all about Lenore Sellers.
Yeah. And we need to get pressure on him, contain his running, and make him beat us with that unknown receiving core. It's not necessarily make him beat us with his arm. It's make him and the weapons beat us with his arm. And that, so Ben Bell, Jonkum, the pressure coming from the middle, we need it in this game. Like, we have to put pressure on this guy. We cannot let him run wild. And I think that Seifkis could scheme him up, as we talked about. We saw a little bit in the bowl game.
That is, of my 3 keys to the game, that's number 3. Exact quote on my notes: get freaky on D. Get weird with it. Nothing's on. Get weird. Yeah. What are you going to lose? What do you want? You saving the calls for something? You only got 12 games. Do 2 high safeties, do 3 safeties, move your nickel around, go 4-man front, 3-man front, have guys standing, have guys on the ground. Like, mix it up on this guy, because that's not what he's good at.
Confuse him. Yeah.
He's not a pro quarterback in that sense right now. If you kind of confuse him, now he's a very intelligent quarterback, and by all, like, I don't want it to come across as that. Like, by all means, he's a very smart player. But on the field, reading the defense during the play is not his skill set. That's where you can get him. So key number 3, get freaky on D.
On offense for the Hokies, a lot of it comes down to how much our offensive line improves.
Mm-hmm.
We need to keep drones away from Stewart. Got to get him moving, allow him to make plays the way he does best. Use his legs, extend things, make it challenging on the defense, and then play off of that. We saw that in the Miami game. We've seen it in the past with him. His KD's ceiling is so high. And if we can, again, like, having a real offensive coordinator could go such a long way in this matchup. And we don't know what we're going to see, but Monty has shown in the past, even in the recent past, that he likes to run his quarterbacks. Like, he really does. And so that could open everything else up for us.
Yeah, it could. I think one key for the Hokies offensively would be extending drives. Brent Pry is a pretty aggressive 4th down coach. If he's on the opponent's side of the field and it's 4th and 3 or less, he likes to go for it. I think that could be the difference in winning and losing this game for the Hokies, is when they have those 2 or 3 4th down decisions to make in South Carolina territory. Do they go for it? Do they convert? Keeping Lenore Sellers off the field, letting your defense rest, that might be the difference, because I'm not sure field goals is going to do it for you in this game. I think you're going to need, if you pick up 2 or 3 first downs on a drive, I think you need to capitalize, because this is a good defense you're going up against. You're not going to get a ton of opportunities to score touchdowns.
My final thought on the matchup is something we've talked about 3 or 4 times already this offseason, is the opportunity to change the narrative of Virginia Tech football. That's what this game is about. I was so scared of Vandy over the summer. And then as it wore on, I became more and more comfortable with the idea that, well, they were really bad, and all the things that we read and learned, we'll probably beat them. Well, my trepidation, my fear of Vandy, what I feel right now, equal parts optimistic about what the Hokies could potentially do in this game. A lot of people who are on the casual side of following the Hokies, seeing what we did last year, seeing what we've done for a decade, are like, 9-3 for the Gamecocks last year, they're going to crush us. They're going to beat us by 3 touchdowns. If you break this matchup down, unless Pry and the team fall flat on their face, we should compete in this game. We should absolutely compete in this game. Yeah. And I think covering the spread is very possible. And I'm curious of your thoughts on maybe a score prediction or whatever else you want to offer.
Yeah, I would say look at last year. I've said this before, and I'll say it. I don't think Tech has a massive talent drop off overall from last year. They're missing some of their top end guys, but I think they've replaced that pretty well. And I think Miami last year was a more talented team. And I think Clemson last year was a more talented team. And Tech should have won one of those games on the road and was probably a couple of dumb plays in the second half away from making that a game against Clemson late in the fourth quarter. So, I don't think Tech's going to get blown out this game. I just don't see that. I do think it is going to be a tough game. I think I do a little bit worry about Tech's defensive backs. So many new guys and a new defense going up against a quarterback who, if you give him a busted coverage, he's going to make you pay. And that killed Hokies last year. And now you have even younger guys coming in. So I really do. I don't know why I'm feeling like this, but I really do think the difference is like, if Tech can extend a drive or two and get 7 instead of 3, that could be the difference in this game.
That's all it's going to take.
It being very high
that's
scoring.
how football's these one-score games that we keep losing, Sam. Like that's all it's been, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a stupid play against Miami, a stupid play against Syracuse, and we blow them. Yeah. That phrasing notwithstanding, I do like Virginia Tech in the underdog role.
Like, finally.
I like Virginia Tech in an opener in the underdog role. Shane in openers is 3-1. He lost to UNC 2 years ago in the opener, and he does kind of tend to start seasons slow. I talked about the 3-3 start last year. 2 years before that, they started 3-3. I think they were 2-6 in 2023.
And they looked bad against ODU.
They did look bad against ODU as well. So they started, I think, 5-2 one of those years. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but something to think about is the slow start for Sellers and Shane Beamer last year. But win total for the Gamecocks over under 7.5. It's juiced towards the under right now, meaning it's minus 130 to go under. It's plus 106 to go over. How do you feel about that over under for the Gamecocks? Just take off your, the matchup glasses and just as a football fan, what do you think for them?
I want to say over. I think I'm going to go 8-4.
Okay. See, for me, I think 8-4 is the ceiling. I think 8 wins. I don't think they can get to 9. This schedule is really tough at the end. They got Bama, Ole Miss, A&M, and Clemson. And I didn't even mention LSU or OU before that. So it's really tough down the stretch. If they don't start 3, 4, 5-0, they're going to have a hard time getting to a bowl. Like, I mean,
it's that tough.
It's really tough. I think the floor is 5-7. So they'll get to a bowl most likely, but I think it's tight. Like, I don't think the floor and ceiling are that much different.
Yeah. I agree. We're doing game predictions.
Sure.
We're doing scores.
You could
want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I got South Carolina 27, Virginia Tech 21.
27-21.
I think the difference
keep in mind, everything we've said tonight is before fall camp. So if you're watching this in late August, we did not see the injury to so-and-so in fall camp. And so this is a summer preview. We're giving you the information that we have post-spring, and all of our thoughts and everything can change on this. I think the Hokies will compete. And right now, I'm not going to give a score prediction, Sam. I don't generally love doing that, but I'm going to say we're going to cover the spread in July. This is July 15th. Virginia Tech.
July 15th, Hokies cover the spread.
9.5, I think we're going to cover. Yes.
Got it.
And you said the same thing, more or less. And your over-under is you're just over.
I texted you when you texted me the line, because I'm in Virginia. I couldn't see it at the time. I was like, oh, man, I nailed it. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, Sam's got to run. He's got a meeting for our website coming up. But
yes,
for everyone that stuck around and watched the preview, we appreciate it. Make sure to catch us Sons of Saturday on YouTube, Sons of Saturday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as Too Deep on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And do we have a word, Sam?
Yeah. Sand for Sandman and Sandstorm.
Yes. If you've made it to the end of the show, comment sand on the YouTube page or on Spotify. You can comment on Spotify too. I don't know if people know that, but you can. So we appreciate everyone who watched with us. And until next time, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.